I cover Classic WoW. I play Classic, I do not play Retail, but sometimes news are so drastic, so ridiculous, that they might affect us. And I think this started an entire discussion that we cannot ignore this, okay? I am a little concerned. So I don't want to bore you. This is a 43-minute video. We are not going to react to the whole thing. But basically, Ion Hasikostas, the lead developer of Retail WoW, he's doing an announcement of a new feature called Rotation Assist. Now, the Rotation Assist feature is going to have actually two features, two modes, so to speak. And one of those modes, I don't know about you guys, but I actually would like seeing it in Classic WoW. It's basically this.
That you can opt into. That will, no matter what DPS spec you're playing, highlight the recommended next ability given your current energy, what's going on around you, and so forth.
I pulled up Cataclysm because I think it's a little closer to Retail, I don't know. But the new feature they are working on, one of the modes is basically, imagine you're playing a shaman and you're like trying to DPS, and you got all your bars of spells here. You know how rotations in World of Warcraft are. You gotta press this button on cooldown. If you get a proc, you press this other button, and so on and so forth. The new feature is gonna show you in the buttons in here, it's gonna have like a golden glow telling you, you should press this one. That's the recommended button for this moment. Now, I think that's pretty cool because this actually teaches you how to play the game. This teaches you, okay, I should be pressing this, and it helps you build up that muscle memory over time, mastering your class. I think something like that would be really good. If that was the end of it, I would never make a video about it. It's just a minor improvement on the UI of the game. There is already weak auras that you can make or get that show you what ability you should press. This is a random example from Rato de Lich King. I don't know, there's some on Retail. I don't know how to look for them, but sim rotations, this simple weak aura is gonna show you like a bar of the ability you should press. So you can already make a similar system to that shows you what spell you should be pressing, but you still gotta press the spell, right? It is just like training wheels to get you to understand your class better. However, this is the part that got everybody ruffled up, that got everybody crazy about it, and it warrants you getting crazy about it.
Which maybe goes a bit beyond what the add-ons can do, is also have a one-button version of that, where there'll be like a keybind that if
Single button assistant increases the time in between abilities by 0.2 seconds. We're gonna talk about that too.
You just want almost an auto rotation. You can opt into that and it will just automatically cast the next recommended ability in the sequence. There'll be a small GCD penalty associated with that, but we wanna make sure that this is for accessibility purposes, that it's there for people who maybe just honestly aren't interested in the gameplay of like mastering their spec. They want to explore Azeroth and experience the story, and the mechanics kind of get in the way of that sometimes. This should be for them. Ideally, this is not a tool where someone is like being told by their raid leader to stop trying to DPS manually and just turn on the one button mode to meet some DPS check. That we want to give you the tools to kind of go through that organic progression naturally.
Okay, it is with that last line that I have a lot of troubles with. First of all, the gameplay of the game is in the way of your enjoyment of the game. Why are you playing a video game? Like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of times in World of Warcraft where the gameplay of the game gets in the way of my enjoyment. Playing Alterac Valley gets in the way of my enjoyment. I am not saying there is no room to improve the gameplay of the game to make it more fun. This is not that. This is taking away the gameplay. You can put your entire rotation on a single button and it will perfectly, well, almost perfectly. I am sure it's not going to be quite perfect on the procs and stuff because not even Blizzard knows how to play their specs sometimes. The specs in Retail are so complex now that an ideal rotation is not so simple to figure out anymore. But still, organic progression. He wants you to have accessibility. I agree, Retail is not accessible enough. I think Retail it feels insurmountable almost to pick up and play today. That's why I never dabbled in it anymore. But how is it natural progression to automate the entire gameplay of your class? The highlighting your buttons feature recommending you what button to press, that is 100% natural progression. It is the game guiding you in how to learn to play your class. And let me tell you something more, the muscle memory you can get from like that is actually going to make you a better player, provided that the system is actually good. We haven't seen the system yet. But this is a little hard to explain. Let me make a drawing. It will be very simple by the time you get to see it. We assume that the ideal rotation is like this many buttons, right? Like it branches out, it's like a flow chart, you got procs to react to and take advantage of. Sometimes your cooldowns get reset, yada, yada, yada. But assume this is the ideal rotation. if I am a new player, I am probably gonna start doing something wrong or simplified, right? Like I started picking up a class and I do the main 2 spells and then I do like a filler spell, something like this. This obviously is not the ideal rotation, but it is like the basic rotation that I do while I am trying to pick up the game and figure it out. Then over time, because I keep reading up my class and getting more muscle memory, I learned that I gotta take advantage of a proc in here and this proc in here, like a new ability that I can press when I get a proc or something, or when I reset a cooldown. And then I realized that when I got a certain buff on me that gives me more attack power or something, this ability is more important than this other, so it flips over. You know, I start with a simpler, less perfect rotation, and I slowly over time keep adding things to it, keep improving it, and keep reacting better. That's the way you used in a normal game to progress through the rotation and finally reach that perfect rotation over here. And being able to tell the highlighted buttons to be able to know what the perfect rotation is supposed to look like is a huge thing for new players, and that would absolutely get new players to learn the game a lot faster. But what you're asking them now is to start with a single button, that's the automatic button rotation they are putting in the game, and somehow when they realize that their damage is not the best they can do because there's a GCD penalty, they are somehow supposed to jump all the way to this. How is that natural progression? How is this going to incentivize people to learn the game? Now, the penalty they are talking about is not negligible. The global cooldown in WoW is 1.5 seconds, right? The penalty is 0.2 seconds, so you are gonna be casting 13% slower. In the grand scheme of things, 13% is not a lot of damage loss. Once again, I do not play retail, I am not a retail expert, but the difference from this imperfect rotation to this perfect rotation is probably a lot bigger than 13%. Like, you know, in Classic WoW, just in Classic WoW, which is a lot easier rotation-wise, messing up a single global every so often, like not getting your execute, you know, like messing up a global in the execute phase can very well mean a lot of damage loss, right? Like, even if you're playing the button, you're pressing the buttons on perfect timing, 0 delays, 0 penalty, not casting the ideal spells can very well cost you a lot more than 13%. And I am not talking about a completely incompetent bad player versus the perfect rotation. I am talking about like a player that is trying to figure it out, trying to learn, trying to be better, that is kinda competent versus the perfect rotation. It is probably more than 13%. So the way you are supposed to go from the one button automated rotation to the perfect human rotation now is to intentionally downgrade yourself to an imperfect rotation for a while, do less damage because you're gonna be sucking at it because you never played your class, because why would you? And then you're supposed to, after this huge sacrifice over time, get good enough that you can play a perfect class. Nobody is going to do that. You messed up the brain chemistry. You messed up the reward system in the game. Let me tell you something. Absolutely bonkers. I got one of these Logitech mice. You know, like they got like 2 buttons on the side. Like a crappy mouse that you can get for like $15. They got macros. And those macros are allowed in World of Warcraft. I can set it up so I can hold this button and I can just spam this singular button like 20 times a second forever. I can literally just hold the mouse like this, pressing the button, and the game will play itself. I don't even have to do this, because I know people make fun of me on stream when I jam the buttons really hard. But I don't even have to spam the buttons like this anymore. I don't even have to do that, like a singular button with my pinky toe holding my mouse. That's all I need. Or even, okay, let's say you don't like macros. Let's say you think macros in mice are cheating. Let me show you a feature that is in baseline World of Warcraft right now. We go to keybinds, we go to the action bar, and we change these 2 buttons from mouse wheel down and mouse wheel up, like this. Now we're gonna put that button that has all the spells, we're gonna imagine it's water shield for a minute. We put it on mouse wheel down and we put it on mouse wheel up. Okay, look at me. This is all you have to do to play the game forever. The baseline game, not a single third-party hardware or software needed. I never have to press a button again. You are expecting people to go from this to like 17 buttons. Let me look up a rotation in retail. I do not know. Let me Google it. Okay, Red Paladin rotation, the War Within. I do not know if this is the correct rotation. It doesn't matter, okay? This is the opener. This is not even the full rotation. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, conditional, 6 conditional 7 buttons. Let's look at the rotation, okay? The rotation has 13 buttons. That's a retribution paladin rotation in retail right now. Do you really think that if I am a new player that just came to the game and I have to go from this to 13 buttons, I am gonna ever do that? Am I gonna go from this to 13 buttons just so I can do 13% more damage? The kind of people that are new to the game and wanna try out the game are not the kind of people that are willing to take that sacrifice just to do 13% more damage. If they were playing the game incorrectly, but they were still pressing a bunch of buttons, and then they wanted to clean up their game, that would be a small step in comparison. This is a gigantic leap that you're supposed to do now from when you start the game to when you want to get good at the game, and nobody's gonna do it. And what's gonna happen now, all the new players that start in this one button rotation, they will never ever want to get out of it. So they are just gonna tolerate not having 13% more damage. They are gonna live with it, and 5 years from now, you know, in a couple years from now, after everybody's used to this, they are just gonna demand and complain and ask on Twitter until they get rid of the penalty entirely. And Blizzard will be forced to accept that because mathematically speaking, the overwhelming majority of the population is going to be better off pressing a single button, DPS-wise, than trying to do the rotation and not being perfect at it. People call it the slippery slope fallacy. It is not a fallacy. Precedent setting is a very real thing. This is an awful precedent, and I sure do hope that it doesn't get implemented. Or if they do implement it, they gotta make it so terrible that only like an LFR player would use it. Now, the real question is, do you think they are gonna try to push this into Classic WoW? You know how Blizzard tries to push retail UI elements into Classic WoW, like the annoying shop button on the top of your character they put like a couple weeks ago? What if they try to push this into Classic WoW? At the end of the day, I think this just speaks to how much Ion Hasicostas drove this game into the ground, that the classes are so complex, there is so many procs, that you need like several add-ons just to even tell what your class is doing, and the only solution he can possibly imagine is to have the computer play for you, because a normal player can never play perfectly anymore. Just simplify the classes, bro. Get rid of the 27 procs. It is not that hard. And I know what you're gonna say, but bro, you suck at the game. Why does your opinion matter? Because this change is supposedly for people like me, right? This change is for people that are not very good at the game and wanna get better. If you tell me that I can get perfect rotation minus 13%, 87%, okay? If you're telling me as a new player that I can get 87% of the perfect DPS just by pressing a single button, that's a purple parse. That's a purple parse on a single button. As a player that isn't very good, this change is gonna ruin the game. If I ever try out retail, I am just gonna use this thing. Why would I try? You took away all the incentive for me to try. I don't know. Thank God for Classic, and God help us give me TBC soon. That's all I'm gonna say on the matter. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.